What's going on, guys? So it's a pretty interesting day out here on the property. Pretty cloudy, about 75 degrees. We had some pretty intense rain and wind come through here recently. That said, everything's starting to dry up, everything's starting to grow, so I'm gonna have to break the zero turns out and really mow this property down. If you want to kind of keep up to date on what's going on with that, check out my other channel. It's BTBRV Life, where we talk about tractors, we talk about mowers, we talk about maintenance on them, we talk about the things that we have to do out here to kind of maintain the property, as well as accessories and things like that kind of make that easier. Over here we have the Palomino Pause, which is an absolutely awesome RV. I know I've made a ton of content on it, and which is kind of strange because I post content on this thing maybe every 4 days. I post a video every day, and I guess that's enough to where it's frustrated some folks to where they actually have unsubscribed to my channel because they feel I talk about this unit too much. And when I talk about this unit, I talk about it in an interesting way because it's a very surprising unit. It's very expensive, no one's denying that. It's very compact overall whenever you compare it to something like our 42-foot Brookstone. It's certainly not what I would consider to be a big RV, but what's big about this RV is the changes that were implemented to actually make this thing one of the best built, best manufactured RVs in history. There's very, very few things that have been missed from a quality perspective that anybody could criticize about this RV. This thing is absolutely phenomenal. They've put so much time, money, and engineering into this. And I actually had a conversation with the GM who actually made this project happen, and he also manages other divisions within Palomino, including the Puma, which is arguably one of the most affordable RVs on the market. So you look at one end of the spectrum being affordability, and the other end of the spectrum being possibly lack of affordability per se, whenever you're talking about a unit like this. The interesting thing is he mentioned things that I brought up in a previous video, like the frame and chassis on this actually costs about 5 times more than the frame and chassis on our Brookstone. So when you talk about quality, componentry, things like that, that's really where you can start to see the cost of a unit like this add up. But that said, that's not the point of this video. We've taken this thing out, I think, 3 times since we've had it. When I say out, I actually mean out on a trip to where we've enjoyed it. The first time was towing it with the F450. We took it out to the island, and we actually stayed out there for about 6 hours. It was really cool. The water started to rise, so we had to move up a little bit. We just kept it hitched up to the truck, similar to what we did with the Black Series when we evaluated it. The second time we took it downtown, which was kind of cool, right up against the water. It was super awesome. We brought some hamburgers out there. I've yet to actually use the grill and everything on here. We've brought all the food with us that we've eaten anytime we've taken this out, just because it's not my unit, and I don't really want to, start cooking on stuff when I have to return this and they have to sell it, and then they got to justify why it was used like that. I don't have any doubt that the griddle and all that would work, but yeah, it's just something that I don't feel 100% comfortable doing whenever it's not our unit. They're gracious enough to loan it to us. We may end up cooking on it, I don't know, but that's a call that I want to talk to them about before I just jump in and do it. And then the third trip, we took it back out to the island a little further down, and we actually stayed out there really, really late. We pretty much stayed overnight since we were out there past midnight, but then we packed it in because I had to travel the following morning. It was a pretty rough travel day considering we were about an hour and a half out. Then I had to bring it back here, and then I had to wake up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock to catch a really early flight out. That said, we love this thing. It's super cool. But honestly, since we've had this, and even prior to that, we really haven't been taking this out as much. This is the Brookstone that we collaborated with Coachmen on. They implemented and helped design the interior based on the feedback that you all provided me through several polls and surveys that we took. So this wasn't a unit that I designed by myself. This was a unit that I reached out to you all through the polls in the community section of my channel to kind of build. I mean, we asked all sorts of questions related to the types of tires, the types of frame, the types of suspension, the types of brakes, what the wall material should be, what the interior should be, all sorts of different things that you guys provided feedback on, and ultimately the folks at Coachmen listened, and we tried to make a unit that was still affordable while at the same time loaded with features. And a lot of those features were things that we absolutely wanted to be more reliable than sometimes you typically see on the market, such as, through frame slides, 12-inch I-beam, 10-inch drop frame, ground control auto leveling, things that are maintenance and serviceable versus things that are very difficult to work on, especially if you have it parked next to your home and you haven't used it in a while like we have. So this has been parked here now for, I'm going to say, going on 4 months. It's hard to believe this year's flying by so quickly. So it's been since early January since we actually used this thing last and took it out on a trip. And I feel really bad for that because this thing's awesome. We love this floor plan. We love the design. We love what's been done to it. It works and fits our needs tremendously well. It tows beautifully. It's very long and it is relatively heavy. The GVWR in this thing's about 17,500 pounds. And as it sits right now, we have it loaded up to probably 16,000 pounds. So we've put a lot into this thing, and it's absolutely been a phenomenal RV to own. Overall, we've probably, gosh, I don't know exactly how many times we've taken it out since we've had it. I've never said that we are full-time RVers. I've never said that we even can express the reality of living in a full-time RV. I mean, we don't travel across the country in this thing. We're weekend warriors like a lot of folks are. We take the RV out when our schedules allow us to. We take it out and go to some beautiful areas, and we set it up for a couple of days, maybe 2 to 5 days, depending on what our schedules allow. When you got jobs and things like that, and you're not working 100% virtually, you can't just say, I'm going to pick up and go all the time. And again, we don't live on the road like a lot of RVers do. There's a lot of folks that have YouTube channels like Keep Your Daydream, Enjoy the Journey. All those guys, they live full-time in their RV, and they're a great reference for those of you who are looking for that type of lifestyle and you want to understand the pros and the cons. For me and for our family, we take it out, I think, like most families probably take their RV out. I would probably say 90 to 95% of RV owners are weekend warriors. They take it out when their schedule permits them to, when they can get free time, when they can get folks to back them up at work, and when they can actually manage the schedule that they live with their life in a way that permits them to enjoy their RV. So that's what we do. We're probably no different than a lot of folks who actually watch the channel. But the point of this video is to talk about some of the things that you think about when you own an RV. You're not using it full time and you're not always at it. You're not always next to it and inspecting everything and looking at it and trying to figure out, what's going to break on this next trip, what's going to fail on this next trip, what's working well, what's not working well. When you're a weekend warrior, oftentimes a lot of the things that you think about with your RV are kind of an afterthought because you're not living in it. And when it comes time for a trip, that's really the only time it pops in your mind of, oh wow, I have to do something to this thing. I have to make sure it's ready. I have to make sure we don't have any rats that have formed a nest in the underbelly of it. We have to make sure that the water system's working. We have to make sure that there's no insects or rodents inside of the RV, that it smells okay, that, where it's been sitting hasn't been impacted too much by rain and there's not water damage. These are all things that I think most weekend warriors think about because we're not always in our RV. We're not always at our RV. We're not always able to spend every day inside and out of our RV. So you can arguably say that if you're a full-timer, because you have so much access to your RV and because you're there all the time, you tend to know it a little bit more than folks who aren't. And even though you may not live in your RV or you're not a full-timer, I think the challenge we all have to grasp with is we have this huge investment. We spend a lot of money on these things. And should we be in the mindset that this is an item that if we're not visiting frequently, we're likely to see it start deteriorating. We're likely to see it start failing. We're likely to see it start losing its value quicker than it otherwise would. And I say this because I was recently at a storage facility with a friend of mine who keeps his RV out there, and I was noticing several units in a row. There were all sorts of units. There's probably 200 to 300 units. It's actually where we used to keep our RV. And you see some units that are very, very new, some that are 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and they don't look like they've moved for months and months and months. They're starting to develop all sorts of dirt marks on the side. The tires look like they've lost pressure. They're just filthy, and they look like they've been sitting there for so long, and you kind of wonder if the owner just forgot about it. And if the owner maybe comes and visits to check on it, what the owners do to actually take care of it. And then you kind of wonder when they actually hit the road with it, what's going to happen? Have the tires been exposed to the sun for years with little to no maintenance? Are they cracking under the UV? Are they damaged? Are the suspension components drying out? Are other components that have lubrication drying out? Are the slides going to work? Are things like that going to be impacted because it sat for so long? Are components simply just wearing out because they're not getting the use that they need to keep them lubricated properly or to keep them functioning well? Has a component that might have otherwise worked well maybe stopped working well just because it sat for too long? The batteries, things like that. And you start to also wonder what the expectations are of folks who own these RVs when they do finally decide to use it. Because whenever you have an RV in storage, if it's been there for 6 months or 8 months or a year and you've not used it, and then you go to it and you're expecting it to be in the condition it was in when you dropped it off a year ago, you're gonna find out that that's just not the case. It's just like if you leave a home abandoned. Technically, nothing should go wrong with it, but you don't know what's made a home inside of your RV while you're gone and then moved out. You don't know what insulation was impacted by rats or other rodents. You don't know what's been eaten. You don't know what's just failed because it has been neglected. It's just been sitting there. And there's all sorts of these things that can happen that you just can't catch. You don't know if perhaps, a bird or something landed on your RV and pecked at your roof and caused a small hole. And then over the last 6 to 8 months, the wind and the sun have opened that hole up and caused bigger and bigger issues, and rain seeped into it and things like that. You just don't know unless you're at your RV for a long period of time. So I talk about this because I have access to my RV every single day, as do most folks who keep their RVs in storage. But does it mean I access my RV every day? Does it mean I'm even out here looking at it and seeing what's wrong? Are there issues with the generator? Are there issues with wasps' nests building inside of my pin box? Are there issues with the suspension and the brake lines? Are there issues with electrical wiring that rats have gotten to, or things like that? Are there issues? Are there problems that are forming simply because I'm not taking a proactive approach to making sure that I'm maintaining this investment that I have? Now, again, we always talk about RVs in the terms of investment, but it's not monetary investment. It's family and fun investment. And if you're not taking care of it, you're not going to have fun. You're going to find out that things are going to fail and break. And when you go to use it, you can't enjoy it because those things just haven't been maintained. Maybe it's rubber seals. Maybe it's your windows. Maybe it's just keeping the inside clean and pest and bug free. Maybe it's checking your roof and making sure things are okay up there. Maybe it's just making sure rodents haven't gotten into the underbelly. There's all sorts of reasons why we should be spending more time with our RV, even if it's just to clean it up so the exterior looks like it did the day you dropped it off there, or it looks like the day it did when you bought it. Those are all really important things, because by doing things like that and spending time with your RV, you're going to figure out that it will last longer. You'll catch problems before they turn into big problems. You'll be able to fix things that you catch before you need to take it out on a trip, and you'll find that your stress level and your anxiety is much lower. You'll be able to take care of tire-related issues, electrical-related issues, things that progressively get worse the longer you don't use your RV. And I know I've been sitting here pointing the camera at the RV this entire time, but that's simply because, I need to come out here more. I need to look at it more. I need to spend more time with it. We give this thing a bath, and we actually give it a hand wash about once a month, just to kind of keep it clean. The rains that came through kind of saved us that job this time, but I recently actually had a fire alarm go off inside of there. We have a Simply Safe system in. I don't know why it went off. I came out here middle of the night. Nothing was wrong, no smoke, nothing. But then it kind of made me think, man, I'm not spending the amount of time with this RV that I should be. It's getting neglected to some degree, and I need to be sure that I still care about this RV the way that I did when we first got it, because it was a huge financial investment for us, and it's a huge investment in terms of family time, and you burn that investment on both sides whenever you take your RV out and you find out that there's problems only because you neglected to take care of the RV after you purchased it and after it went into storage. Anyways, guys, I sure hope this video makes sense. I hope it kind of wakes some folks up who own RVs, have them in storage, and haven't visited them for the last 8 months, and they're hoping that everything is exactly the way it was when they left it there, which it's likely not going to be, and there's likely going to be some issues. And I hope it helps you understand that if you want your RV to perform the way you want it to perform, just like a home, just like a vehicle, you're going to have to spend time with it. You're going to have to use it. You're going to have to make sure that you're taking care of it and that you're at it and you're enjoying the investment, not just when you're camping. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again very soon.